Hey everybody. Once again, it is me. Thank you. Happy to be here. And we are distro hopping once again. This time I am testing out Vitalinux or Vitalinux. I'm not sure. It is from Spain, according to the DistroWatch website. It says here it's based on Ubuntu, and it is using the XFCE desktop. Again, I am using my distro hopper number 2 because I'm still working on getting my initial distro hopper computer to the point where I can install another operating system. Something happened with I can't instruct that computer anymore to boot from USB. It still works. It still boots into Fedora because that was the last installation that I had on that computer. Um, and I don't necessarily want to blame Fedora for this, but whatever happened in the process of installing that operating system to that laptop, because I installed many operating systems on that laptop beforehand, it triggered something in the BIOS, I guess. To This was a used computer that I bought from a thrift store. I guess it triggered something to make it wake up and realize that at some point, I guess maybe it had a BIOS password, and so I can't get into there and reconfigure it to boot from USB again. So I'm just kind of stuck on whatever operating system is on the hard drive. Now, I suppose I could go through the extra steps of putting the hard drive on another computer like this one, installing the operating system, then removing the hard drive from this computer, putting it back into the original computer, and booting to the new operating system. But that's just a lot of extra steps that I just don't want to take the trouble in doing. I was able to pick this laptop up for a steal. I think I paid like $5 for it. It already came with a hard drive. It already came with RAM, although I think I did increase it from, I think it had 4 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM to 8 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM. But otherwise, it just worked. So I was just like, okay, I'll go with this for now. Now, it is operating probably a lot less powerful processor. That one had a Core i5 processor, an Intel Core i5 processor, although it was like maybe one of the first generation Core i5 processors, but it was a Core i5, and this one is running an AMD E2 processor, but it's working. It's got everything it needs as far as I can tell. I'll shoot this video and play it back and see if everything runs smoothly. But this is, I think, the either the second or third operating system I'm trying on this computer, and so far everything's gone relatively smoothly. Although I do tend to have to make sure that I am lowering the quality of video in most cases. So if you're watching this, more than likely I had to produce it in 720p, but it still allows me to create a video. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna make do with what we got available. So anyway, moving on to the video. What I've got installed on this computer this time is this operating system. And again, I'm guessing because it says it's from Spain, I'm guessing it's pronounced Vitalinux. I was pronouncing it Vitalinux when I first saw it, but I'm guessing it's probably Vitalinux. It says here that it is based on Ubuntu, which Ubuntu I think is based on Debian. So we're going on a based on type of situation. Although Ubuntu is kind of grown, uh, into a huge distribution, and a lot of other distributions are based off of Ubuntu. Ubuntu. I'm still not sure how it's pronounced. Huge distribution, and a lot of other distributions are based off of Ubuntu. Ubuntu. I'm still not sure how it's pronounced. I think a lot of people have moved on to pronouncing it Ubuntu, so I guess that's how I'll pronounce it now. But yeah, so it's using the XFCE desktop environment, which I like to use for these older computers. Again, I'm still very early into my Linux journey, and from my understanding, the XFCE desktop environment is a little bit more lightweight compared to things like Plasma. KDE Plasma is a very nice desktop environment. I almost said operating system. A very nice desktop environment to use on your operating system. It definitely was the first one that I used, just because I'm a Windows user coming into Linux, and it just looked way more familiar to me, coming from that Windows background. So I started out with Plasma, on a computer that was, I guess you could say, much more capable than this computer is. I don't use that computer to hop from distro to distro. I use this computer that, again, I think I picked up for $5, uh, to do that. And because of that, and because of the specs on this computer, I try to keep everything as lightweight as possible. But it's also, it goes to provide another tool, to show that you don't need the highest spec computer in order to just simply run this operating system, and not only run the operating system, but to get it to do things like record videos, edit videos. I'll render, produce the video, doing that all on this machine that I paid. And I bought it as a bundle. So if I broke down the bundle, I think I didn't pay more than like $5 for this computer. So on a $5 budget, you can produce a video. The operating system's free. The application that I use to shoot the video, which is OBS, is free, OBS Studio. And the application that I use to create or produce the video, which is Caden Live, is also free. So there's a lot of free stuff that's out there, if you're just willing to investigate it and just give it the time so that you can learn it. You can do everything that I'm doing, and your computer is probably far more capable than what I'm doing it on. And I've hashed and rehashed all this stuff in previous videos, so I'm not going to linger on it. But anyway, Vitalinux. So it's from Spain. Says here it was developed by the government, but it says here it was produced, I guess, in Aragon within Spain. So maybe it's not nationwide. Maybe like the entirety of Spain isn't behind it, but it looks like it's one of the regions of Spain, is where it was developed. And it does say here it was designed to be relatively lightweight and optimized for ease of installation and use. So let me just minimize the web page there, and we'll take a look at the operating system. So this all is like the default, I guess. This all came pre-configured, just out of the box. I just installed it, and this is how it looks. So it's got this cool little bar here on the side that just kind of gives you some system information. All these systems seem to like tell me, no matter what version of Linux, none of them are in agreement on how much RAM I have in this computer. So I've got 2 sticks of DDR3, 4 gigabytes of RAM on each stick. So it should give me a total of 8 gigabytes, but I guess depending on the operating system and what it chooses to show, I guess it only shows what can be used. What's not, I guess, being used by the operating system, and whatever it's got to do to control the hardware of the machine. I don't know what's being used that isn't being shown here. But it's out of 8 gigabytes, I guess it's using a little over about 1.3 gigabytes for all that background stuff. Oh, and of course I've got this running, so I should have said that to start with. So I do have this video being recorded, which is eating into it. But even after all that, I still have, maybe it's saying that the total RAM. I don't know. Anyway, it looks like I'm using maybe about a third of the RAM, to do all of what I'm doing right now. So let me take a quick look and just see what we got going on here. So one of the things that I noticed about this Vitalinux is that it is running the Synaptic package manager, which there, and here it is right here, which I think is kind of cool. So one of the things that I also noticed about this is that although you do set up a password or a passcode to get into the system, it's got like its own this whole admin DGA. That's not something that I set up. All unlike other versions of Linux that I installed in the past, where you just create your user and you create the password and that's it. You are the admin of the system. It doesn't seem to work that way on this version of Linux. So I was going in and I would just type in like my usual password and it denies me access. It's the passcode that I set up or password that I set up when I was installing this system, and it wouldn't let me do it. So I actually had to go into Firefox, and this is what I found. So I asked, I won't scroll up, but I asked it, what is the default sudo password for Vitalinux? And it said here that I guess it depends on the login that I use. So the DGA, which is the user that I logged into, is care IDGA. So I would have to type that in order to get Synaptic to launch and give me access to me being able to install things. So let's see, was it under here? Synaptic Package Manager. So there we go. So I type in care IDGA, and I think that worked. There we go. So now I'm in the package manager, and again, I'm not super familiar with Linux at all, but I'm even less familiar with the package managers and how they work. But from what I found, from the limited experience that I have with these Linux operating systems, is that when I get one that uses the Synaptic Package Manager, it just seems to work. And I don't know, my theory or my thinking behind it is that maybe Synaptic does some kind of maybe a system, it analyzes your system to determine what version of the software is going to work best on your machine. I don't know if that's how it works. But what I can tell you just based on my experience, and I think I've only installed, maybe this is my third version of Linux that uses this particular package manager, is that whenever I install a piece of software, in the software that I install when I'm jumping or hopping from distro to distro, or usually just a couple of things, like three things mainly. It's OBS, it's Kdenlive, and GIMP. And those are usually because those are what I require in order to shoot the video. I need OBS. In order to edit the video, I need Kdenlive. And if I want to make a nice thumbnail, I'll use GIMP. So those are the three applications that I need. On this particular version of Linux, I believe Kdenlive and GIMP were already installed. They came pre-installed. So when I installed the operating system, they were just there, which is great. OBS was not. So I had to go in here and install it from here. But what I have found is that when I use, and you just go in here and search for what you want to install. So OBS Studio. My experience has been when it comes to these operating systems and using the Synaptic Package Manager is that it just works. Whatever I install through Synaptic just seems to work regardless of the machine I've installed the operating system to, which is not the case with some of the versions of Linux that I installed to my main distro hopping laptop, which was that HP EliteBook 8440. I've had some issues where it was installing things through. I'm not sure if it was installing a Flatpak version. Regardless, whatever it used, I would get into a program like OBS. I think that was the main one, and it just wouldn't work. I think in some cases it wouldn't launch, or if it launched, it just had problems recording the video. Like it just flat out wouldn't record it. It didn't like the camera or whatever it was. I don't know. And then I would do searches on maybe how to get an older version, and it was just steps that I felt should have been resolved somehow by the package manager or the operating system. Um, it was. I'm willing to do some work, but I can be lazy, and if I find something like this where it just seems to work, I'm super grateful for that. So this is the Synaptic Package Manager. It's not super colorful or anything like that, like you might find with like the KDE Discover store, um, and things like that. But it does the job. And when I install software, and again, I've only installed a few things, but when I install software through it, uh, on the two machines that I've tried it on, the HP EliteBook 8440p and this Dell Inspiron 15 5000 series that's rocking this wonderful AMD E2 processor, it just seems to work. And I'll pull up OBS. You can see it on my screen. It's running. Um, so yeah, that was just kind of a like a side note or like some off to the side observation, but I appreciate it when things like that just work. Yeah, this has been my experience with Vitalinux is how I'm gonna pronounce it because it's Spanish. um, but yeah, I would definitely say it's worthwhile giving it a shot. It seems to work fine on this computer, given its limited resources. So it probably will work splendidly on any computer that you're going to install it on. But that's just it for this video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and leave a recommendation on what you think I should try next. And your recommendation might just end up being my next video. But for now, peace.